You're listening to the Deadly Uncle Podcast,
a safe space for deadly uncle conversations. All right, everybody, I hope you're ready for a great episode. We've got Garth Lacombe, and Garth works with
Bantero. If you want to check out more information about his men's circle, check out Bantero, and they'll have the information there on how you can join to be a part of that.
So stick around because it's going to be a great episode. Lots of great info coming up.
Give us a little intro on who you are.
Okay. Yeah. So, like I said earlier, I shared with you guys, where I was born. I was born in St. Paul, Alberta, and I'm the youngest of seven, and spent about 4 years in St. Paul before we moved to Edson for a year, and then my dad got transferred to Slave Lake, and that's where I grew up. Again, the youngest of seven, so. Was teased a little bit by my siblings and stuff, who I love dearly, and I know they love me. But I mean, it's just, I guess we relate it to, sometimes it's called the Indian humor, that we grew up with. But I mean, it did have an effect on me,
Yeah.
So from there, going to school, I remember myself in Slave Lake growing up and just being a kid, just a little bit carefree, and then getting bullied and becoming the bully, and that whole process played out throughout my young life and into my adulthood, and it caused a lot of chaos for me, and made a lot of enemies. And luckily, I also had a bunch of good friends too. So there was a balance. But I think 30, I got married, had my first child. 31, 32, got divorced, and everything prior to that played a part in that happening. So. Met my second wife, and we were pretty much done our relationship as well. We had a son together, and at that point, when we thought we were done, we kind of were given a mulligan from a friend of ours to take part in these workshops. Which in these workshops, it was like a big healing sharing circle, and we did that for 10 years, my wife and I. And within those 10 years, we saved our marriage, we became better parents, and the thing that I found out in these workshops early on is that there was about 98% women to about 3% men.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's all over the world. That's in our communities. It's, our women are doing the work, and it's not to say they don't have stuff to work on, but they're doing it,
Yeah.
So for me, doing that for 10 years and over 125 circles of just primarily working with women, which I'm really grateful for. Early on, I made a commitment to myself that, what I needed to do is to create spaces for men to do the work. And, I started my own company with 2 guys, and it was nothing to do with any of this kind of work. And, it failed, but we learned. And then that was in those 10 years that I was doing all this work on myself and on my marriage, and it kind of fell in my lap that a good friend of mine who I've done work with at Bantero just kind of led me to the position I'm in there now, and then that's working with men and fathers.
Beautiful.
Right? So from there it went one-on-one, and then just really presenting healing and sharing circle to my manager and supervisor, and they saw the significance and the worth in it. And so that's what I've been doing for the last 2 years. And like we spoke earlier about the pandemic, as soon as I started running the circles, the pandemic hit, and so we had to move online, which at first was challenging because my first go at actually facilitating healing circles was online.
I just had a right moment. I was working at Morning Fire Protector when you started those online healing circles, and I was trying to get some of my clients to take part. They never did, I don't think. But we had gotten the email about your email. Now it's like I was trying to figure out where I heard your name before.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
Sorry, everybody. I had a mental breakthrough there. So
Us as artists, we're squirrels.
Yeah, that's what it's about, though, right? We're starting to put the pieces together and the puzzle together. So we went online, and we started a Tuesday night a healing circle on Zoom, and we had anywhere from 5 to 17 guys join weekly. So we started another one on Thursday afternoon, and we had anywhere from 3 to 8, 9 guys join. And at one point, after about a year and a half, I asked the question. I said, "So do you guys want to do these bi-weekly?" No, we want to keep it going, right?
Yeah.
And I wasn't surprised because just creating a space for guys to share and talk and support each other was huge. And
It's amazing.
luckily with Zoom and being able to do it online is we're getting guys from Vancouver, Kelowna, Saskatchewan, Calgary, and fast forward to where we are now.
Do you think, like, just real quick, do you think
Yeah.
that made it easier for some men to take part because it
Oh.
was on Zoom, because they didn't have to be in the room, they didn't have to show their feelings in person?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I was just thinking.
No, that's bang on. You hit the nail on the head, and then that's exactly what it was. So when I run a healing circle and sharing circle, it's not about you guys have to show up. You guys have to share. Sometimes it's just listening. So guys would turn their camera off, and they might be playing games. They might be listening. They might not want it to show emotion. But the important part is that they're there. And that's cool. That's all we needed, and we all respected that. So you're bang on. I mean, it made it so much easier. So now that we're able to meet in person again, the guys from out of town, the first question they're asking is, "What about the groups online?"
Yeah.
So again, I talked to my manager and supervisors, and within our organization, they said, "You know what? We're still reaching people. This is a resource. Let's not take it away."
Yeah.
Yeah.
So thankfully, we've been able to do that. And it's still kind of running. So.
That's
awesome.
amazing.
Yeah.
So how can men join for our men that are listening right now? How can men join your group?
Yeah, so they can either call Bent Arrow online. We have you can go on Facebook, and there's a Kikoswin Family Resource Network. You can call the number, and you can register there. And it's as easy as that. And again, it's so there's some programs and stuff where they say you have to show up 3-4 times or else you're out of the group. Yeah, no, we don't work that way.
Oh, beautiful.
It's show up when you can, and if you can't show up, whether it's 1 week or 1 month or 2 months, just know that you're still with us. And just not even some guys go out of town for work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they just can't do it. They're tired.
Especially in
Yeah.
Alberta.
Yeah. And then every once in a while I'll get an email and they'll say, "Hey, sorry, I couldn't make it, and I really wanted to, but I'm tired." The fact that they're emailing, the fact that they're reaching out saying they can't make it, they're thinking about it.
Yeah.
And
for
that's
sure.
that's they're still in the space.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing, is that we want to make it easy for guys to join and show up and not feel bad when they can't.
So when you were growing up, was it hard for you to find men's groups or any of those things? Did you find any, or did you look?
No, didn't look. I grew up, and as you guys know, I grew up in Slave Lake, and so there was hockey, there was junior hockey, there was baseball, and that's all I did.
That was the men's groups.
That was the men's, right?
Sports teams, and that's true, right?
And I had some really good mentors and fathers who coached these teams. But one point I always make to some of the guys I played sports with was that in all the practices through baseball and hockey and throughout our life growing up, did you ever remember the coaches pulling us aside and say, "How's everybody doing?
Yeah.
What's going on, you guys?"
I played hockey until I was 17, and I experienced some of the most racism in my life.
Yeah.
Hockey.
Yeah.
In Red Deer, Alberta, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a really Caucasian town,
Yeah.
and all the communities that we played, Central Alberta. So, I mean, yes, there were definitely good people in minor hockey and minor sports that helped, but they never really, most people didn't care what you felt like mentally.
Yeah.
And,
Just
if
how
you had
you
a problem,
discipline
if you're acting out on the ice, just
Yeah.
walk it off,
Walk it off. Yeah.
Tough kids don't cry.
Yeah. And as I'm sure you guys both experienced, there's some really good men,
Yeah.
that help us all grow up, but they don't know what they don't know either.
Yeah.
So maybe that's why, and it's probably for sure that's why they didn't sit us down and maybe one practice every month say, "How's everybody doing? What's going on at school? What's going?" And then as a group, we can sit and look across from each other and go, "Okay, so and so's having a tough time. Go easy on them." Kids can be cruel, but most importantly, having a space to talk.
Yeah.
And the amount of, and the reason I bring up sports and practice is because the amount of times we're together.
Yeah.
That's just a time when we're together,
Yeah.
And I bring the school aspect into it. I just read at a school here for a bunch of kids, and the first thing I did is I got us in a circle, and daycare, kindergarten, we're always, let's get in a circle, let's get in a group, let's read, how's everybody doing? Grade 1 comes, and we're all looking forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The beauty of the school I went to today is that they had a space to do a reading, to do circles, right? But not every place has that. So from a young age, could you imagine if we all got to sit in a circle or sit in a space and just check in? how's everybody doing?
Mhm.
You know, what's going on for you guys? And then, you know, you want to put a real dent in bullying.
Yeah.
Give our kids especially a space to where they can share just naturally.
Yeah.
You know, and we'll understand, get an opportunity to understand each other better.
Yeah.
So.
Well, for some of our men that maybe don't know or never been to a sharing circle, can you explain it a little bit? Explain the process and what happens, so people maybe would feel more comfortable coming somewhere if they knew what was happening.
Yeah, 100%, because it is, you know, it's a circle and a space with other people can be really intimidating. Yeah. And one of the few things that I say in the beginning is that it can take you your first sharing circle, or it can take you 2 years to where you even say your name and share your name. And I have what's called what I learned and what I was taught from my teacher Henri is that there's a thing called test for safety. So when somebody shares something with us, so let's say a spouse, for example, and we laugh or we respond with uncomfort or whatever, or make a joke out of it, we failed their test for safety, right? But if we create that space and just listen and be present for them, we pass their test for safety. So one of the things I like to say about a sharing circle is that it's on your own time. If you can show up to just the fact that you're there, you don't need to say anything until you're ready, right? You can just listen, and many people have a hard time with listening. So when you hear a story, and as you guys know with our Indigenous culture, story is huge. Sharing circle, story, right? And when you get to understand what's going on for others in the circle, it makes it so much easier not to judge and to have compassion and to have that. And we've all said this. Geez, I thought that was just me, right?
Well, that combined energy, I think, coming together, you know, everybody's energy together, it moves people. Like, I've been in a few circles in my time, and you're right, it's the majority is women, and you see people sitting there, and you see their like the way they hold themselves and stuff. It changes as the circle goes on. Like, people are closed off, you know, they're like this, and then some of them may not even really want to be there, but they're there for work or whatever. And then as the time goes and people open up, people start to, you know, some people start to cry, some people start to comfort people. It's like, it's about just being able to share what's wrong with your life right at this moment. And a lot of people don't understand that letting that out would help so much with anxiety, depression, and all those things that we silently suffer from as men.
And we hold it in, for sure. I totally agree. And you know, the circles that I've been to as well, like for I Don't Know More and all those things that had started up, and it was like myself and maybe 2 other men that were in the circle. There's like 40 or 50 women, and also being a musician and seeing the difference between even in education, performing in post-secondary education, and seeing about 35 to 40 women graduating to about 10 to 15 men. So there's a big, there's a big lopside there. And I think it all has to do with us not being able to express ourselves and, you know, and finding out what is healthy masculinity.
Yeah.
What is healthy masculinity? Because we're in a time right now, it seems like when you show any sort of masculinity, you're angry, or any sort of passion. It comes off as anger, and maybe that's not what it is. It's a passion inside of us, and it's knowing how to put out that healthy masculinity. But I think it's important for our men to have.
Oh, absolutely. You know, it's important. You know, so when we go into a circle, when we go into a space where there's a little bit of anxiety happening, we're going in here.
Yeah.
Right. But we do what you said. As soon as somebody starts sharing and somebody's willing to be that person, then all of a sudden it goes from here to here.
Yeah.
Right. We have a gap that we need to fill. That, you know, we need that flow to where we go in, and we might have a fear, but as soon as we get here, it's just naturally we start to want to share. We start to want to support. We want to be of service. Right. And that's what a circle provides.
Yeah.
You know, and it's nothing that I do. I'll pass any gifts that I've been given as far as knowledge and any kind of healing. I'll pass that through, but I take part in the circle as a participant.
Yeah.
You know, I facilitate, but I mean, it's a gift to me to be able to share, and I'll never expect anybody else to do or say or share anything that I won't. You know, and as soon as that happens, the circle just takes care of itself.
Yeah, it does. It does. You know, And even doing this process is healing for me.
Yeah.
You know, like I've learned so much from the process of dealing with this, and you know, dealing with our own emotions. You know, like, because we are taught, you know, don't cry, don't show your emotions, and that type of thing. So it's really nice to be able to sit with you and sit with so many other men that are doing positive things in our community and heal. This is a shared circle right here we're having
This is
between the three of us. I totally believe so, and I'm glad to share that out with the community here with a podcast. You know,
100%.
through an expression of art. And you know, it's nice that you know, Trent came up with this idea to have this,
absolutely.
you know, through music first, and now, you know, we've come into this, you know, hopefully starting a men's collective together. You know, all of us, everybody that's on this show and around everywhere. We can start something together.
Yeah, and Trent had the question, you know, like what do we do to make that happen? And this is part of it.
Yeah.
You know, I've got a lot of good connections and amazing men in my life, and in, you know, that they have podcasts, they're out in the community, they're spreading the word. But for me, it's about doing the work, having those places where we can go.
Yeah.
You know, everything's needed, the all the Facebook and everything that everybody else is on, but where do we go?
Yeah.
You know, because we got to change that narrative that where do men go? Yeah. Let's create a space for them.
But the powers that be need to hear this too. Like, the
100%.
people that are funding the programs in the inner city need to understand that you're not going to stop homelessness by ignoring men's issues.
That's
right.
Yeah.
90, I can't say the actual percentage, but a huge percentage of people that are living rough on the streets are dealing with undiagnosed mental health issues. And a lot of them, because they're so hard to house, they just get left there, get left and forgotten by our community. Yeah. It's our job to try and find ways to not forget these people, because they're suffering from intergenerational trauma, they're suffering from so many different things, and they self-medicate with addictions. And that's just a symptom of what's happening with them. And we need to realize that and approach them with compassion.
Absolutely. Yeah, 100%, you know, and again, I'll go back to that whole mindset of, you know, the percentage of women to men who are doing the work. You know, we can take that number and we need to look at it. We need to, I call it a societal ego, thinking that it can't be as simple as just to give a space to men to talk. Yeah, you need people who can facilitate it and run these spaces and stuff. But society, I believe, is that they think that it can't be that simple.
Yeah,
but it is. You know?
It is.
Unfortunately, and I'm a straight talker, man. I right from the hip is I believe that us men, we're behind the eight ball when it comes to doing that, having that level of healing, and women are so much further ahead. And I praise that. But the thing is that if they're ahead, then we're way behind. So what do we do when we need to learn to walk?
Yeah.
One step at a time, and we got to start from the beginning. That beginning is just creating spaces to do the work. You know, we have counselors, we have psychologists, and God bless them, but we all know how backed up they are.
Yeah. How hard it is for some people to want to go there
and to pay.
Yeah.
Right?
And then and then you have to first get to the point of, can I ask for help as a man?
But somebody's healing journey has to start somewhere, and it's more comfortable, I would think, with, you know, a group of your own peers than going to some nameless doctor immediately and you know, feeling that you're being judged as you get there.
Yeah. And I think, like, through these circles that you're putting on, men are healing through other men's testimonies.
Absolutely.
You know? Yeah. And they're finding answers through other men that have been there, or, hey, I didn't know you were going through this, brother.
Yeah.
I thought I was the only one, man. You know, so those things are totally amazing, and I applaud you for that. And we're definitely gonna join one of your sessions for sure. You know, coming up in the future. And you know, creating these spaces also, like, one of the things that I'm asking all of my guests that are coming on to the show is, you know, what do you think about having a space kind of like, have you ever heard of Paul Makers? I don't know if you've ever heard of
Paul Makers?
Paul Makers, yeah. So, like, a space like that, but for not a treatment center, but just an inner city place for people to pray, for Indigenous people to pray, kind of like a church or like a mosque or somewhere that's safe for Indigenous people to pray. What's your thoughts on that?
Culture, ceremony, and again, I don't find myself or see myself as a cultural teacher, because I'm still learning about my own culture. I'm Métis, and I have, I'm blessed to work at a place like Bentero, but I'm in the very beginning. But I 100% agree. Culture and ceremony and story sharing is so healing. And a place to go so where we can do that, and not always to fix somebody's addiction or heal somebody. Just a place for them to go and be supported, and have elders and knowledge keepers there where, they can just do that for them, and maybe their addiction is over here and they're dealing with it this way, but just a place to go. A place to be, to know that they're supported and not judged.
Yes.
Just
for sure.
and embraced.
Somewhere where they feel like they belong.
Yeah.
Because so many people leave their home communities and come to the city, and then they just get lost in the shuffle because they don't know
there's
where to go
nowhere
find people that are productive necessarily. You know what I mean? Like good friends instead of bad friends or whatever, right?
Yeah. So I was talking to my teacher Henri, and he had graced my group that I run by being there and help facilitating and giving some teachings. And I spoke to him after, and I said, I just haven't found out why this is going well. Why are the guys showing up and again, anybody who knows me, I get emotional because this is my passion. It truly is. And he said, Garth, he goes, every one of us deserves, when we come into this world, we deserve to go into a family that is loving, supportive, safe, and just lifts us up. And that's what a healing circle, that's what a group does, is that it gives us that level of family where we're not judged, where we're supporting, like we said, where we have that peer support, where we're learning from each other and we're lifted up. And that's what a circle does for me. And he said, that's what's happening. And it's true. It's like a family where we get that, right? And nobody's there to tear us down.
Yeah. And that's a good way to explain intergenerational trauma to people too. Like that's what they did to our families, is they tore them down.
Yeah.
We didn't have those safe spaces. We didn't have that loving environment. Well, some of us did, but not all of us, because they were taken away from their families.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people in Canada don't really understand. They don't understand what it's like for, a 5-year-old to be taken away from their mother and not brought back. Or ever come back. Like they just don't understand what that kind of trauma does to generation after generation. And I mean, it needs to be addressed. There needs to be spaces, and you're doing great work, man.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, a bunch of us are, and that leads me to I remember an elder I was watching on YouTube, and forgive me because I don't remember his name, but he brought up such a huge point that it's still with me every day, is that what happened when they took our children and all these children away, is they took thousands upon thousands of future elders and knowledge keepers out of the equation. Yeah. Right? So, like I was telling Kurt the other day, I like to be positive. I don't like to attack. What I tell our young warriors, our young men who are just coming in, and some of the guys who are middle-aged and young like me, I tell them is that there's voids that we need to fill. And, we've all struggled, but we need to step up. And all because all these young ones were taken. That's a whole generation of knowledge keepers and elders that we don't have. And we need to step into that. And there's opportunity. We may have failed in school. We may have been caught in addiction. We may have had unhealthy relationships, but let's leave that in the past and let's start taking up some of these spaces to where we can do our own healing and creating spaces for our younger generation to come.
That actually leads me to another comment and stuff we've been talking about the other day about that very thing, about being able to put things in the past for some of our men, like people that have gone to prison for bad things, and they're trying to now reintegrate themselves into the community. How is that possible for someone like, I'm not saying it's not possible, but it seems for a lot of them that it's not possible to get involved in community organizations, especially if they've had like a history of sexual assault or something, and they're trying to turn their lives around. So like, it's just a question that we've been talking about in private,
really,
because we've seen other organizations have this issue with people and stuff, right?
I experienced a little bit about a story like this, and if you guys anybody wants to go on Facebook and just touch base on the Bentero site and just have a listen to our our executive director, Cheryl Whiskey Jack, she tells a story about a guy kind of in that similar situation and how our organization was his place to heal and to just get that daily support to move forward. And unfortunately, the story that didn't end well because of COVID and in relation to his story. But, to answer your question is that we just need to create those spaces. And not every organization, not every person is going to be able to deal with that. But there are strong people and healed people who are, have expertise and just have a place in themselves that they can provide those spaces for those guys and those women. It's hard. It is. But
It is.
we've got to do it. We just got to. It's like today we're talking. We got to create
Well,
spaces.
yeah, it's just it's a conversation too, because who knows, what that person could do after they serve their time. I'm not advocating for anybody in particular or anything, but what I'm saying is you have to give people a second chance. Like, people do things from a point of trauma most of the time in our community. They're lashing out because of addictions or all that other stuff. So when do we as a community feel safe to accept them back in as functional members of the community?
Yeah,
I would love to have like a huge discussion like this with a huge panel with elders, everybody involved, and say, yes, how do we integrate these individuals back into our community events safely for the person who may be the victim, and then safely for the man who is now recovering as well. Safety for the full community, because right now I can tell you I threw on an event that was affected by this exact situation. Because there was a member, I won't name any names or groups, but there was a member from a group, a men's group, that was going to be showing up to one of my screenings. And I had a woman's drum group that was going to come in. And because this guy was, had people in his group that were related to sexual assault, they didn't feel like they were safe in that environment. So, these are hard discussions that we're having. And like you said, we're learning in the moment. It's just like, elders talking about, because some people believe that you should be sober for 4 days before you touch medicines, right? Which I can see works for alcohol, but it sure doesn't work for the drugs and the community that we're dealing with now. You can't ask somebody who's on meth to last 4 days. It's just, and when this was made up, the 4-day rule is when alcohol was the major drug. But now that we've evolved into where it's hard to ask somebody in 1 hour to be sober, they should have access to these medicines. Because those medicines might save them that night. The smell of sweetgrass might have saved them that night. So they should have access to that. And I think that, it will evolve, and it has to evolve because we have new drugs and new addictions that have come up.
And there are certain safe spaces, like certain people that run ceremony that don't have,
Those stipulations.
I think you just have to seek them out. But if you're working with the inner city population, you really want to heal people, that's an unrealistic goal for them to attain, just so they can take part and say a swim. Because they're living to survive, and if you want to help them survive, medicine is going to help them survive.
Maybe just
making them feel, even less a part of what you're doing. It's not going to help them survive.
I mean, if somebody needs medicine and they ask for medicine because they're sick, we give it to them. Right. So I was taught both ways, and I'm glad I was taught both ways, because I had the opportunity to work with the our Ventura cultural team at the Bissell Center, and I had people coming in who were under the influence and asking if they could smudge, and there would be people in the room saying, no, not when you're using it. And because I was taught that if somebody's asking for medicine, it might just be that one time where they look at you and you're there to support them, that they go, thank you. And that happened numerous amount of times. And it was same thing to respect those who don't believe that. That's cool.
Exactly.
I wanted to go back to the question, Trent, that you asked is, how do we help these people who are incarcerated and regardless of their offenses and stuff like that? How do we create spaces? Well, let's take a step before that, right? If we're not willing to go into these spaces, you know, and we live in society, and if we're not willing to go to healing and sharing circles and spaces to take care of our own stuff, then how can we create spaces for those who may have committed some crimes that we don't agree with, or that's, you know, if we're not doing that, why, you know, how can we, you know, we can't put the cart before the horse. You know, we got to lead by example. We're out here, we're doing it, we're creating those spaces. How do we do that? Well, we got to create them first.
And maybe the people that are questioning whether they should be allowed are the ones that are in need of healing. You know, like the way you just explained that just made that like click in my head like 100%. That. So it's like
100%.
You know, it is a conversation, but it is a conversation that may wake some people up.
It's that whole mindset is that, you know, when we point the finger, how many are pointing back? You know, we expect people to heal, we expect people to be better, but when we do that, that's a level of projection and judgment. And we all know, you know, if you're going to judge somebody else, you better judge yourself first. What do I need to work on? What do I need to heal? Where do I need to go to be part of creating these spaces?
Let's not open that Pandora box on this episode.
Right? But it is true. It's about creating those spaces for everybody to heal. You know, for everybody to feel safe. You know, speaking about respecting each other's belief systems and ways. This movie that I put out this year called "They Found Us" is about you know, unmarked graves on my reserve that have been started from the 215 in Kamloops, and you know there's still a really touchy subject when it comes to belief systems on reserves, and particularly on my reserve, George Gordon's First Nation. There's a lot of people that are born again Christians or whatever, Catholic, and then traditional. And a lot of times they don't get along, but one of the things that I do on my flute is I play a traditional song, and then I'll play like Amazing Grace on it, you know, and say like, my brother's a born again Christian person. I'm sorry, I might have got that wrong, but born again something, I'm not sure exactly, and I believe in traditional ways, but we can all sit together. And I think that that's an example of we can all come together in our communities, you know, no matter what our past had said, it's time for us to come together, you know, it's time for our men to come together and, you know, in a physical sense, you know, I know that the drum has brought men together, you know, and Curtis was talking to us yesterday about a drum group that he's starting for men. And so it'll be nice to join that and be a part of that, you know. But it's just, you know, finding what can get a bunch of men together in the same room, right? Physically, like you said, it's a little easier to get them to join online because they're not so intimidated to come in person. So.
Moose meat would bring me.
Yeah, moose meat and a drum and what else? Banning. Yeah. Bunch of men together in the same.
I was just thinking for a second. Kurt's like, we're gonna join your group, and then Curtis is like, I'm not gonna have any free time. This guy's joining me up for all these things.
Yeah, right.
We're gonna be busy.
You know, and I go back to that whole thing. You know, like you can join a group, but you don't have to show up every single time. You know, your energy's gonna be there. Something you might share in a group can last for a long period of time just from what you shared, you know, and then maybe you show up 2 months down the road or whatever it is. You know, it's about supporting each other and getting it happening everywhere, just creating spaces. You know, we all got elders, we all got friends that teach us and help us along the way. So it's about putting those gifts that we were given from each other and bringing those to certain groups, certain places. You know, one of the best teachings that I ever, and it was something I read, and can't remember the doctor's name of Bible names, but he said, you know, for example, with the sharing and the healing circle, what it provides, is a place for us to be our own doctor, because we know our own story, we know what we've got to work on, and we just need a place where we get to practice that, and we do that through sharing with each other. You know, and just in that circle, and that's why circle it just takes care of itself. And that is beautiful, and even a space, a drum group. You know, when there's a drum, what's a circle? Like the kids I read to this morning, I said, there's a teaching, what's the shape of the sun, the moon, the earth. It's all, and it's balance, or drum. It's balance.
Yeah.
Right? It's equality.
Yeah.
And that's what a sharing circle is all of a sudden, like Trent said, is you go from this to one, wow, we're all the same?
Yeah.
Oh, la. And then now it's like, okay, I can take the armor off little by little.
Yeah.
And then
open yourself up.
Yeah, and then once you get a circle of and a group of people who are doing that, you have balance.
Yeah.
You have music.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of it.
Right on. Yeah, no, it's beautiful, the work that you're doing. And, this is why we do this podcast, is to celebrate our men, men that are doing positive things in the community, that are moving forward. And so I just one last thing for myself anyway, I want to ask you is, what is your plans for the future? What do you see? What's a goal for you?
It's just to continue doing this. I so many times, including myself, when I have a great experience in a sharing circle, I want to say, oh, now we need to do this. Now we need to do this. And so many times the guy, a lot of the participants, they'll say, oh, Garth, we have to do this. And I just say, I honor that. And I love your enthusiasm, but let's do this really good first.
Yeah.
Let's not put that cart before the horse. Let's just create spaces, and let's just do this really good first. Let's create that foundation, whether it's a podcast, whether it's a circle, whether it's a drum group. Let's just get really good at this. And then it goes back to that mindset of that test for safety. If we get really good at doing this, I can't remember, is it Noah's Ark or Build It and They Will Come?
Yeah.
Feel the dreams.
Right. Just let's get really good at this. So what I see is just that. I just one day at a time. It's just, let's get really good. I want to just get really good at what I'm doing, because there's so much learning I need, and I just didn't want to wait until I figured I could teach somebody, and who knows what tomorrow brings, man. So just day by day, let's do this really good. Let's just keep creating spaces, creating opportunities. Let's just keep making it happen, and that's what it is for me. It's hard because we want to do more, right?
Yeah.
We're enthusiastic. We see so much potential, but again, it goes back to what's going to make them come. Well, I want to go, and I need to trust Kurt. I need to trust Trent, Curtis, Garth, whoever it is. Let's create a space where people can come and trust us, and let's do that really good first.
I can talk. The only thing that I want to ask you is, can you do a quick recap? Your name, who you work for, when you facilitate your circles, just so everybody can hear one last time before we go home.
Yeah, so my name is Garth Lacombe. Born in St. Paul, raised in Slave Lake. Been a citizen of Edmonton for the last 19 years. I've been blessed to, get a position with the Bentero Traditional Healing Society, working with men, working with fathers, and which has led to working with men, women, sometimes children, like today, reading with them. We're all working on that inner child, right? And that's what I do. So I facilitate and partake in healing and sharing circles.
And you have a weekly men's circle?
We have a Tuesday night on Zoom and a Thursday afternoon in person. So right now, I was just in an accident in June, so I'm just starting to get back into the office and hopefully getting things running and rolling again. But call Bentero, and they'll direct you to how to register for our groups. And
sweet.
Yeah, and the rest is history. Just show up, join us once, join us twice. And there's some guys who've been along for the ride for the last 2.5 years. So
awesome. Well, big shout out to Bentero.
Yeah.
That's awesome, the work that you all are doing over there for men and women, the full community, and we're in full support. And if you ever need a band, me and Trent have a band.
That's right. Christmas season is coming, so we got a Christmas party.
We'll come sing Jingle Bells for you.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I'm not in the band though.
All right, thanks, Garth. That was great.
Thank you, brother. Awesome.
Nice to meet you.
You're listening to the Deadly Uncle Podcast, a safe space for deadly uncle conversations.